bracha. Yeah, you're not allowed to learn without making a bracha first. So even though we don't follow that rule, furthermore, not only if you just learn Shammai's view, we're told even though Shammai's view does not follow the halakha, it's still considered holy. How about if the Gemara says, and we have this in Gemara, the Gemara had a thought, it was just a supposition, a hava amina, it's called hava amina, I might have said. The Gemara has a thought, perhaps this is how we are to understand the Torah. And then the Gemara rejects it, that is foolish. The Gemara itself, 2 lines further, says, what we just said before is not right, is wrong. Let's say I want to get up in the morning, I want to just learn those 2 lines that the Gemara said was wrong. I have to wash my hands, make a bracha. So even if something was right for a moment, a thought in my mind, a Torah thought in my mind, and it doesn't last, it gets extinguished. It's proven to be wrong. Because you occupied yourself in a Torah thought, even though the same Torah says, don't follow it, it's called Torah, unlike in the secular studies. So if we light a Hanukkah menorah, that's the light of Torah, and it was lit for one moment your mind absorbed a Torah thought, even though it's not according to halacha, even though the Gemara says this thought is to be not followed, it's wrong, it's a mistake, it's a holy mistake. There's no such thing as holy mistakes in the secular world. If it's wrong, you're embarrassed, if you even thought that way, discard it, it has no value. So here is the lesson. The Hanukkah menorah represents the light of Torah. The light of Torah, once you light it for one moment, it made sense to you, it sounded right, you occupied your mind with Torah learning, it's holy. Even if it gets extinguished, meaning it doesn't have any lasting halachic ramifications. In fact, it's wrong completely, proven to be wrong. You occupied yourself in a Torah thought. Likewise for us, let's say we're thinking, trying to figure something out, a Rashi and Chumash or whatever it is, and we're coming up with ideas that are not right. Before you study, if you verbalize those words and you actually say it, the din is that you have to wash your hands and you have to make a bracha. You're not allowed to learn even your own thoughts if it's a Torah thought. That's the lesson of Hanukkah. Even if the Hanukkah lit was just lit once, Torah was what was lit once in your mind and it goes out a minute later, it loses its meaning a minute later. Don't underestimate the value of that one moment. You don't have to rekindle it again. It's holy. The nice thing to rekindle it again. It would be nicer, but you don't have to do that. On the board. Skip going on board now. So this is a part of a article my brother has in his book over here called Hanukkah Deleted. And I mentioned, I think last week, we don't have a tractate called Hanukkah. We have Brachot, Shabbos, Pesach, Psachim, Yuma, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, Sukkah, Megillah, everything you can think of, every subject. There's no tractate called Hanukkah. And there's plenty of laws of Hanukkah, plenty. It's in the Talmud, but there's no Mishnah. The Mishnah came before the Talmud, before the Gemara. There's no Mishnayos devoted for Hanukkah. Why is that? Who compiled the Mishnah? Rabbi Yehuda Anosi. Which tribe was he from? From Shevet Yehuda. Mashiach comes from which tribe? Yehuda. Malchus belongs to Yehuda. David HaMelech was from Shevet Yehuda. One of the answers that are given is a very strange answer. My brother in his book turns the answer on its axis and makes the answer sensible. The answer that's quoted in the name of the Chassam Sofer. Chassam Sofer was a Hungarian Talmudic scholar who lived around the time of the Mittler Rebbe, about 200 years ago or more. His name was Moshe Sofer. Rav Moshe Sofer, that was his name. He was some Hungarian great, a brilliant sage and a very special person also, besides being brilliant. And they say in his name, well, the reason why Rebbe, who's the compiler of the Mishnah, does not have any Mishnah devoted for Hanukkah, except for one we learned in the Gemara, where the Hanukkah menorah does damage. But the laws of Hanukkah, of the Hanukkah menorah, you learned in the halacha class, right? How you have to light it, the bracha you make before, is the hadlaka the important part of the mitzvah, or is the placing the part? You learned all about these things. There are a lot of halachas about it, not mentioned in the Mishnah. Why? So they say in the name of the Chasam Sofer because Rebbe felt he was angry, upset. He was upset with the Chashmonaim. The Chashmonaim were not from Shevet Yehuda; they were from Kohanim, Shevet Levi. And after they defeated the Syrian Greeks, after they wrested leadership, they removed the Syrian Greek influence from the Jewish people, lit the menorah. Wonderful. They had Mesiras Nefesh. The Chashmonaim the Maccabees were wonderful, self-sacrificing people, no question. But afterwards, they made a big mistake. They should have handed over the leadership to Malchus Yehuda. Had they done that, Mashiach would have come. They didn't do that. They failed. Rebbe, who was a descendant from Yehuda, from Malchus David, from David HaMelech, who was from Shevet Yehuda, therefore decided to punish the Chashmonaim by not allowing the whole miracle of Hanukkah and also the laws of Hanukkah, the menorah laws, to be put into a Mishnah. Isn't that strange? Rebbe got angry at the Chashmonaim. Okay, these are the heroes of Hanukkah, and thus punished the holiday. You can't punish a holiday because you don't like the people who were involved in the, in the victory. I understand you can speak against the Chashmonaim, but don't put Hanukkah down. Therefore, this is one of the many questions that are asked. Therefore, nobody believes the Chasam Sofer could have said this. Along comes my good old brother in his book called Hanukkah, The Light of the Future, this book which I gave you. You asked for it. And he says the following, pretty brilliant. He says, I don't know if the Chasam Sofer meant what I'm going to say, but perhaps he meant this. He wasn't putting Hanukkah down. On the contrary. How do you understand how he was actually extolling? He was praising Hanukkah by not having it recorded in the Mishnah. Really? How was that? The answer is, why are we allowed to put the oral law, Torah Shebaal Peh, in writing? The rules are, just like you're not supposed to review Chumash by heart, except for Sukkim that everyone knows by heart. But you're supposed to read from inside. When you read the Chumash, you're supposed to read it. It's not supposed to be memorized by heart. You can memorize it by heart, but you don't say the words in Chumash by heart. With exceptions, there are exceptions. Like Shema Yisrael, which is also part of Chumash. That's different. Any Sukkim that everyone knows is fine. And likewise, the oral law, Torah Shebaal Peh, Mishnah, should not be put into writing. Who gave Rebbe the right? Who gave Rebbe, the compiler of the Mishnah, to put the oral law, all the oral laws, into writing? Why do we have Mishnayos? We should not have Mishnah. What's the answer? Jews were dispersed into exile, and we couldn't focus anymore on memorizing things. Had we not put the oral law to writing, you know what would have happened? The whole Gemara, the whole oral law would have been forgotten. When you go to when a person is dispersed, when Jews are suffering from exile, our memory also suffers. One of the symptoms of Golus is we forget. As time goes on, we forget. And we forget even faster when you're suffering. It's very hard to remember our learning when we're going through hardships in life. They went through a lot of hardships in life over the millennia, 2 millennia. So because we're in Golus, that's why we forget. And because we forget, we need Mishnah. On the board, it says Mishnah, the same letters as Neshama, which means the soul. Mishnah, Mem, Shin, Nun, Hey, right? How do you spell Neshama? Nun, Shin, Mem, Hey. The same letters, just rearranged. What other word also has those 4 letters of Mem, Nun, Shin, Hey, but rearranged? Menashe. Menashe was one of Yosef's 2 children. Remember? Just read about it. Why was he called Menashe? Why did Yosef call his son Menashe? Because God has made me forget all my travails, all my problems and hardships in life by giving me this son. So Menashe means forget. Mishnah, the same letters as Menashe. The Mishnah is a remedy for forgetfulness. It gets rid of the Menashe. Same letters, rearranged. If you want to not forget, put it in writing. And the Mishnah has a special amulet, a segula, shelo lishkoach, not to forget. Shel hazikaron. We should never forget Torah. Also, the letter is neshama. What causes us to forget? Our nefesh habahamis, our animal soul, especially when we're in Golus, and especially when it's Torah matters. Boy, does the animal soul help you forget Torah? Very much so, because the animal soul is into the mundane world, and Torah is a soul type of learning. You're not in touch with your neshama, you're going to forget. Mishnah has the letters of neshama, and thus it gets rid of the menashe, the forgetfulness. Now listen to this. Says Rebbe, I don't want to put, this is what the Chassam Sofer meant. The Chashmonaim messed up Hanukkah. Hanukkah is so holy, so unique, it does not need to be put into a Mishnah. Because Hanukkah represents the light of Mashiach. Mashiach would have arrived then if the Chashmonaim would have appointed Malchus Yehuda, a person from Shevet Yehuda. That would have been the end of the Golus. Thus, there would be no need, if you're living with the Hanukkah spirit, there's no need to remedy forgetfulness. There's no need to have to put Torah Shabbal Peh, the oral law, in writing. You're not going to forget anyways. There's no need for Mishnah, because you're not going to forget. Mishnah is a remedy for a sickness called forgetfulness. We don't have that sickness. So by Rebbe deleting Hanukkah from a Mishnah, what he was trying to say is we don't need Mishnah. Hanukkah is Mashiach. In fact, the oil, take a look, how do you write oil? The oil in Hebrew. Hashemen. You see on the board? Hashemen. Hashemen. What letters? Hey, Shin, Mem, Nun. Oil, the Gemara says, Tractate Horios, page 10a. One of the sectors in Shas called Horios. If a person would eat or drink olive oil, mixed obviously with something else, you're not going to drink olive oil alone. It's good for the memory. Not the olives. The olives are bad for the memory. Olive oil is good for the memory. So if you're going to eat olives, dip it into oil, into the olive oil. Olive oil is good for the memory. Why is that? The whole Kabbalistic reason for that. I'm not going to get into that.
Actually, someone, there's an Wilson Conference that has a class about olive oil and good for cognitive function.
Yeah, but especially for the memory. Why the memory? Because Shemen is connected. I'll just mention with you. You're not going to understand it. It doesn't sound like Chinese. Shemen represents Chachma, not Bina, Chachma, because oil rises above all liquids. It remains. What is Chachma? A flash, but it's not. You don't have it yet. It's like swimming above your head. Bina is when I have it. Bina is when I got it. I grasp it. Chachma it's more like it's grasping you than you're grasping it. The concept is floating in your mind. Something sounds right. I don't know what it is yet. So Shemen represents Chachma. And it says in Chassidus, the brain that's connected to Chachma, to the flash, is the same part of the brain for memory. So being that oil is a physical metaphor for Chachma, it therefore helps our memory as well. So Ha-Shemen, the miracle of oil. How do you say 8 in Hebrew? Shmona. Shin, Mem, Nun, Hey. There you go again. Ha-Shemen, Shmona, which means 8, is also related to Hanukkah because Shmona also is higher than Zman, higher than time. Why do we forget? We forget because we are in time. We're limited to time. As time goes on, we forget. Person lost a loved one after a year. The sadness goes away because you forget about it. Time is healing. But if you're above time, if you're 8, if you're on the madrega of 8, you don't forget. So Chanukah, Hashemen, the oil, the idea of 8, the fact that it's Or Haganuz would have removed forgetfulness. So therefore, Rebbe says, I'm not trying to put down Chanukah. I'm blaming the heroes of Hanukkah because they distorted what the real Hanukkah would have been. Had they not made the mistake, we would have had the real true spirit of Hanukkah, which is nobody forgets anymore. In fact, there's a whole question, when Mashiach will come, will there be anything in writing anymore? The oral law, that is. Might still be, because once we had it already, it might still remain. But had we not gone to Golos during the time of Hanukkah, we would have had Mashiach. Just by the way, I want to throw in something. Okay, this is the Rambam writes about Mashiach, that if Mashiach passes on, if the person who was assumed to be Mashiach passes away, that's not Mashiach. So everyone learns, the Rambam is saying that a person who passes away, Mashiach can only come from those that are alive, it can't come from the dead. The Rambam is not saying that, because there's no source in the Babylonian Talmud, in the Jerusalem Talmud, Babli, Yerushalmi, or any medrash anywhere that says Mashiach cannot come from the dead. What the Rambam is saying is, don't think that the person who did everything, almost everything, is Mashiach already. Don't believe that that person who prepared the world for Mashiach to come was already Mashiach, and now Hashem will bring the Geula without Mashiach. That's heresy. If you believe that Mashiach came already, but Hashem will bring in, usher in the Messianic age, you're separating the person Mashiach from the Geula. That's forbidden. You're not allowed to do that. The Rambam was saying, we have a person who was so great and did so many great things and brought so many Jews back to Judaism and did everything except for ending the Golus. That person was not yet Mashiach. He could be Mashiach. He might be, but he wasn't. That wasn't Mashiach yet, because Mashiach cannot be separated from the actual Geula. He, a human being, a great tzaddik, has to be the one to usher in the Geula with Hashem's green light. But if you separate the Goel from the Geula, yes, Goel, that's afikoursis. That's afikoursis. You're not going to believe that. Rama makes, therefore, Hanukkah was missing one important component. They had everything there. They got rid of the pagan influence. They had the Beit HaMikdash. Everything was ready. It was such an opportune time for Mashiach to come, but they ruined it because they didn't appoint a melech from Mashiach. That was the problem. And therefore the Geula could not have come. In fact, the descendants, what happened? Nachmanides mentions the descendants of the Hashmonaim invited Roman influence. They themselves became Roman, became Yavanim, Yavanim. By the way, the word Chashmona is also Ches, Shin, Mem, Shmona. Chashmona also has the same letters. But what is Chashmonai? Mashiach now. Chashmonai, Mashiach now. They forgot that Mashiach has to come now. They were into the right thing, but they missed the idea of now. Now, so that's in a nutshell what my brother writes in his book as to why the real answer as to why Rebbe deleted Hanukkah. It's not to put Hanukkah down. On the contrary, it's to raise Hanukkah up. Okay. The Sicha now. So we have a debate between many. What is Ma Yoter Gavoa? Positive mitzvot aseh or mitzvot lo aseh? So I mentioned this before everyone walked in here, that there's a YouTube debate between Rabbi Manis Friedman and Rabbi Shai Staub about, which he watched, about what is greater. So Rabbi Manis Friedman was the advocate. Do positives, yoterko. And Rabbi Shai Staub, he advocated the negative. He won the debate, by the way. The negative, one of the positive. Then at the end, Rabbi Manis Friedman made a very, very powerful, comeback by saying they're actually both equal. It was quite fascinating. They were both right in everything they were saying. Very clear way of. So this Sicha here that I gave out has.
So what does that know?
Oh, so Hanukkah has both qualities. There's the Mila, we'll learn what the qualities are. The Mila, the advantage of a positive mitzvah, and the advantage of not doing something wrong. Can anyone tell me what would you find easier, to explain the advantage of a positive mitzvah or the advantage of observing a negative commandment? Positive. Positive. Can anyone explain why a negative would be greater than a positive?
You have to class this a lot.
Well, sometimes the positive also because the Yitzhahara. You're right to a certain degree.
And then you can do after you press it, then you can do
For my Rav, I say so. Yeah, but what makes it greater? How is there a greater connection to God by not doing something wrong over doing something right? You're not doing something. You're just not doing something. And sometimes when you do something, you also reject your desire. No, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I'll do it. I have to. So that doesn't seem to capture the advantage of a negative over a positive. It's hard to explain, right? Not so easy.
Maybe it's more hard not to do.
Why? So they're debating. They were just saying why it's more hard because what I think. What's your name again? I get your name. Lee. That it's harder, you break yourself more, but you don't get any credit for not doing it. No one's gonna notice what you didn't do.
Yeah, like.
What I did, I can sometimes do something because I enjoy doing it. Give you an example with, person buys his wife flowers. I've been man street and asked Chase Tao. You think it's more important? You think the don'ts are more important? Could you imagine if a person, you know, buys flowers for his wife, that's the do, and doesn't harm his wife? Where is there more of a relationship? Just not harming your wife? Or showing love by giving her flowers? Obviously giving her flowers, right? So how could you say don't is better than do? Chase Tao responded, let me ask you a question, Rabbi Manny Friedman. What happens if a person buys flowers for his wife, he's working, and then he gets carried away in his business and comes home 4 hours late without calling his wife, letting her know he's away. He walks in, here, why are you so late? So he's interested in buying his wife flowers, enjoying the idea he can give her something. But what about the fact that she's waiting and waiting and waiting? How about the hurt? Sometimes that's more valuable. How come you're not thinking about me?
Yeah.
You know why you bought me flowers? Because you enjoy giving flowers. Maybe you enjoy it. Okay. But that's not what the Sicha is going to talk about. I just wanted to mention this. Yes.
Difference in like tshuva for each of them, like when you do a negative.
Yeah. So on the one hand, we have a rule: positive knocks out a negative. We give a bris on Shabbos. You know how to let blood out. You know how to cause blood. Right? Bleeding is like to cause blood. To bris milah is a malach on Shabbos, and we still do it because the positive effect of the bris weighs over the negative of the Shabbos. So that's one of the advantages of a positive over a negative. But you're asking a good question. What's the punishment for a negative? Not so easy to do tshuva. Tshuva doesn't work so quickly with a negative commandment. Positive, you fail to put on tefillin, you fail to do whatever a mitzvah it is. You do tshuva and you're fine, it's enough. For a negative commandment, you need Yom Kippur and tshuva. So we see a negative. But the truth is that actually proves the other way around. You know why you can't? You know why all you need is tshuva for a positive? Because what else you can't correct what you didn't do. If I didn't, you didn't. What I did, I can undo what I did. But you can't do what you did. If you didn't put on film one day, you can never get that back. You can't get back. We'll excuse you, but we can't transform your not doing into doing. So because we can't help that, all you're doing tshuva for is with a failure, but you're not really fixing anything. That's why it's no big deal to do that's why you only need is tshuva. But the Sicha is not going to talk about that. Sicha is going to mention the qualities of a positive mitzvah and the qualities of a negative, and Hanukkah has both. So what's the quality of a positive mitzvah, besides what we just mentioned before? You elevate the world. When you do a positive mitzvah, a person's part of your body, with a physical act and physical object, the object and your hand that's involved in the object, like benching esrog, galula, or if it's a shofar blowing, whatever it is, your body and the object gets elevated. And that's why it can only be kosher. They have to be kosher. You can't have like for example, an esrog from Urla, the first 3 years of a tree is called Urla. Or money that's stolen, you give it to tzedakah, it doesn't count. You can't use non-kosher oil for Hanukkah either, by the way. So the positive mitzvah has limits, has rules, because it has to be you're elevating. I can't elevate with three totally made. If something is trait, I can't elevate it. So by a positive mitzvah, we have the mila, we're sublimating, changing the world, we're transforming the world. Negative commandment, you're not transforming anything. You're working with yourself, but you're not transforming any object. There's no hishapcha. There's no elevation. What's the advantage of a loisasa now? What is the advantage of a negative commandment? So here comes the Teves, which is the very fact you can actually do a mitzvah with your hand or with a certain party or your leg, or whatever, and take an object. That means you're able to channel down. You're connecting to God in such a way where you can express this connection by an act. You can express this connection. That means the connection can't be that deep. It has to also be limited. because we cannot channel things that are infinite. The very fact that I can do a mitzvah as a part of my body and with a certain object, we can describe what I'm doing. That means that the connection you have to God is also limited to description. It's not beyond description. A negative commandment is also a mitzvah, but you bind yourself with something that transcends any kind of ability to channel, to harness. And that's why, how do you fulfill a negative commandment? By not doing. Well, also in logic, certain things we understand, certain things we know that it can't, we know what it's not. I don't know what it is, but I know what it's not. That's also called knowledge, but it's much deeper. God is not. I can't say what he is, I can say what he's not. He's not limited. So Losa said, when you have an urge to do something wrong and you don't do it, you connect to the level that has no limitation, no features, and therefore it can only be channeled by something you don't do, not by something you do. Hanukkah has both qualities. Hanukkah, on the one hand, the positive mitzvah with oil. You light it with your hand. You're doing an act, and you have oil. You have a menorah, physical menorah. Everything that has the quality of a mitzvah saseh, which is transforming, but it also has the power to negate klipa. We wait till it gets dark. We wait till it gets dark outside. We put it outside our house officially on the left side. Left side. Why left? Because all the nurture of klipa comes from the left. I'm not being political here now. I'm saying the left meaning Hashem's power of holding back. Hashem is self. Right means he's giving. Hashem is revealing himself. And left means he's pushing back. The tzimtzum. And because of tzimtzum, that gives klipa life. They can't live when Hashem is revealing himself. When Hashem reveals himself, the truth is revealed, klipa falls to the wayside. When Hashem hides himself, they thrive on Hashem hiding. They thrive on the left. That being the case, we have one mitzvah that has the qualities of a positive and a negative, all combined in a mitzvah. Now, it does say that another quality of the negative over the positive, I forgot to mention, is important, that you're able to have an impact on the non-kosher part of the world. By not doing an Aveira, you're affecting Shalosh Klipos Hatmeis Lagamri. By driving it away, by pushing it aside. Like if I push you aside, you feel rejected, don't you? Get out of this class. How does that feel? It humbles you. You might get angry, but it humbles you. So if we humble Klippa by saying, get out of here, by not doing something. No, we have the urge, but chas v'shalom, you weaken the forces of Klippa. A positive mitzvah doesn't touch Klippa, the real Klippa. It just touches the neutral Klippa. Yes, it elevates, but it can't reach. It cannot reach low. It cannot reach to the real dark world. It doesn't have any connection to the real dark world, only to the kosher, neutral dark world, Klippas Noga. But when you fulfill a Lo Saseh, you're affecting the negative, the most negative part of the world. Real darkness. Along comes Hanukkah. You know what Hanukkah does? It doesn't just push away darkness, it elevates even Sholish Klippas Atmeis. It can even transform. It has the power of transformation. That's the quality of positive. It transforms, it elevates. But you know what it elevates? It elevates even areas in the world that are anti-God. Even those areas become lit. The darkness becomes lit. Did you ever hear of the word? I'm pretty sure it's going to be no. Ad dekalia rigla de talmudoi. What?
Yeah.
You heard about it? I was about to tell you, I had it.
Okay, fine. Never mind.
I'm not hungry. It's okay. There used to be a bunch of people that were called Talmudites. They were a group of people that were descendants from the slaves of King Solomon. And they would stay out. Their job was to wait out at night, wait till everyone goes home, and they would sell firewood to people. So it says, once you light the Hanukkah wood, light it, but once these people leave and go home, no one's in the street anymore, so it won't be any publicizing any miracle anymore. So how long should when is the deadline for lighting Hanukkah live? As long as these people, they're called the Talmudites, are found in the street trying to sell their wood, then you can light the Hanukkah live. When they walk home, when no one is there because they're the last people in the street, then you should not light it's too late for Hanukkah live. That's what it says. Comes along Chassidus and says, Kalya Rigla. Rigla means regel. Kalya, consume, destroy, or cause to consume the remnants, the regel, the foot strides of Tarmud. Tarmud is the same letters as Moredet, rebellion. But the forces of rebellion, the forces of anti-Semitism, of rebellion, or anything that's anti-Jewish, anti-Torah, not only is dispelled, it becomes transformed. They get excited about Judaism, excited about the holiness of Torah. The word kalya means like kolot hanefesh, where they get expired in the ecstasy of the beauty of Torah. That's the power of the Hanukkah menorah. So it has the power of positive and negative. And that's why Hanukkah is put on the left side of the door, because it's able to dispel, it's able to get to the source of all the problems. The source of all the problems is Hashem is hiding himself. He's holding back. The left side of the door is the opposite side of the mezuzah. Mezuzah is make sure your home doesn't get affected. Protect your home from all kinds of negative influences. Mezuzah is to elevate yourself away from the world. Protect your home from outside influence. Hanukkah is change the world. So mezuzah is on the right. It's like a godly embrace. Come, I'll protect you. Right hand shows embracing. Come. And we put the mezuzah on the most outside part of the door to include the entire house in that protection. But Hanukkah is also put on the outside, but not for the sake of the inside, for the sake of the outside, to affect the outside world. Let's see the Sicha inside here. Ner Chanukah mezuzah. Mitzvahs Ner Chanukah domer mitzvah mezuzah bekach eshteyen tzorich lekayim. Both of them are related to a door, at the door opening, either of the house or if you have a yard. Some say you got to put it by the most outside, by the entrance of the yard. Mibachutz, and it should not be on the inside part of your house, but on the very outside part of your house, the outside part of the door, of the gateway or whatever. So though they seem to be very similar, Lamrod Zot, in spite of all that, the second paragraph, Yesh Beinehen Havdel Gadol. There's a very big difference between Hanukkah and between the menorah and the mezuzah. Reshit, number one, HaMezuzah tzricha leyot miyamin, ve'ilu ner Hanukkah tzarich leyot mismol. Mezuzah is on the right, the Hanukkah is on the left. Shenit, the second difference, HaMezuzah tzricha leyot mibachutz mishum. Why does it have to be at the outside? Not because we care about the outside, because that's where the house begins. Shemakom zeh, at the very outer layer of your house. Maschil is where Maschil habayit. That's where your house begins. So we want to include your entire home. We therefore put it on the most outside part of the doorway, or the doorway of the yard. Below lemanachutz. But the mezuzah is not for the sake of changing the outside world. It's to protect your home from the outside influence. Le'umat zot, Ner Chanukah tzarich liyot mibachutz. Ner Chanukah needs to be on the outside. Ki matarato, the matara, the goal, the objective, hulahoyer esachutz, to illuminate the outside. That's the Kislev Rabbi. One of the proofs that Hanukkah is put outside, not just to publicize the miracle, as many people think. If you ask a non-Lubavitcher, why did they put the Hanukkah? Why is the mitzvah to put it on the outside? You know the answer? Pirsumi nisa. Chassidus says wrong. If that would be the case, Purim is also Pirsumi nisa. Purim also is a mitzvah to publicize the miracle. How come we don't have a mitzvah to read the Megillah outside? Where do you read the Megillah? In Shul. What does that prove? Pirsumi nisa is not, the idea of having to publicize the miracle is not the reason or the only reason as to why we light the menorah on the outside door initially. But rather, it's to illuminate the outside. So it has to be where the outside is. Purim is not about changing the outside world. Whole different type of Yom Tov. Hanukkah is about illuminating the darkness. Well, see how you do it. The Rebbe says in the next paragraph, second side, second column. It's well known that Yenika, the nurture of the spiritual energy of the Bechina of Reshus HaRabim, What does Rosh Hashanah stand for? Public domain stands for where you don't see Hashem's oneness. You see Rabim, you see many different things in the world, no connection to God. We see multifaceted things in the world, and we get caught up with all the nuances, and we forget about the one God who's responsible for all of that. So Rosh Hashanah refers to Klipa. Ture de Pruda. What does that mean? Ture de Pruda, Aramaic words. Ture means mountains of separation, of discord, of divisiveness. Where does that come from? Where does that stem from? Humikav HaSmol, from the left side of God's powers. Therefore, Yesh Lomar, Teshnei Havdelim, the two differences that Hanukkah has to mezuzah. Number one, Hanukkah is for the outside, for the sake of the outside of the house, for the sake of Rosh Hashanah, as opposed to mezuzah, which is for the sake of the inside of your home, to protect your home. And the fact that mezuzah is on the right and Hanukkah is on the left are connected. Kuruchim zeh b'zeh are connected to each other. My brother also in his book says, you know why perhaps today the minhag is to light inside? With all the outside influence that's come into our houses. We have outsideness in our homes. The goal is so strong that people think in olden days, your home was Jewish. Outside is a problem. Now the outside has infiltrated the inside. We have to take care of the outside within our home. What he says in his book over there is one of the reasons why perhaps Bashgaka Protis, the reason start because it's dangerous, people anti-Semitism, and people or climate conditions or whatever. But it also can be said that maybe because what's going on right now is so bad that the outside influence has infiltrated inside. That's our outside. Our own family is affected. We got to get to that part, that outside first. Then later on in his same book, the same chapter actually, he says, but there must be a positive twist to that also. Because Hanukkah is not only beyond the outside, it's beyond the inside too. It transcends both outside and inside. But we'll leave that for another time. Anyways. So now he says further on, phase. Rov ha-mitzvot b'yamin, within the most mitzvahs we do with our right. Al mitzvahs mezuzah nemar hishkula keneged kol ha-mitzvot. It weighs equal to all the mitzvahs. Why? Because it includes, it comprises of all the mitzvahs. Bikach, move on from that. It's clear. The two aspects of mezuzah kayamim gam b'chol mitzvahs are also true about every mitzvah, that they're done with the right. We do everything with our right hand. You're a lefty, your right hand is your left is your right. All the details, since mezuzah weighs equal to all the mitzvahs, so therefore every other mitzvah has a semblance to the mitzvah mezuzah. The achein, and indeed, achein means indeed. Anu roim, we see the gabi rov mitzvot. Most mitzvahs, how do we do them? Aleph shein tzrichos leheyosef al yad yamin. You got to do it with your right hand. When it comes to the karbanot, the Beis Hamikdash, if it was done with the left hand, forget about it. I think a Kohen cannot be a lefty. Sure, but I think it says the Kohen got to be a righty. But most mitzvahs you do with your right hand, not your left hand. Let's go to Beis. Beis, we don't find any mitzvah besides Hanukkah that's connected specifically to the outside. I know you're going to say, what about Kiddush Levana? Well, first of all, it's not a mitzvah. It's not one of the 613 mitzvahs. Or it's not a rabbinical mitzvah either. It's not one of the 7 rabbinical mitzvahs either. And number two, if you have a yachid, you have a you don't have a ceiling. You have a house that has four pizzas, and you can see the moon from your home. Not to go outside. There's no mitzvah that could be on the outside as long as you see the moon. If you see the moon from the inside, it's also fine. I think it says you can't have a roof over. You can't see it through a skylight. It has to be direct. Okay, so take the roof off, and you're inside your home. You're in a Rosh Hashanah. In a Shabbos wise, it's a Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, 4 minutes around Shabbat also. Either every mitzvah is done dafka inside, or it makes no difference. There's no mitzvah that we dafka have to do it outside. One exception, Hanukkah. Although initially, nowadays we do it inside also, but initially the mitzvah is to be done outside. The only mitzvah that we have in the entire Torah and all the rabbinical mitzvahs as well. Beis, Most mitzvahs, ein lehen kesher im achutz. Like mezuzah, they're not connected to the outside. The mezuzah is not for the sake of the outside, for the sake of your home. Yes, mitzvahs shechova lekaimon dafke b'pnim. There are mitzvahs that we have to dafke do it inside. And even mitzvahs she'efshel lekaimon gam b'chutz, even those mitzvahs that could be done outside in the street, why not? You could bench esrog in the street if you want. You can hear shofar in the street if you want. You could even eat your Pesach Seder in the street if you want. There's no halakha have to be inside. You can certainly get tzedakah on the street. Bikkur cholim. I mean, most of the mitzvahs doesn't make a difference where you do it. They're not connected to the outside. So either you dafka have to do it inside, or it makes no difference. When you mekayim these mitzvahs, next page. If you happen to do those certain mitzvahs in the street, it has no connection to the street. It has no specific relationship with the place you're doing it. It doesn't make a difference where you do it. You can do it outside, you can also do it inside. But the possibility of being able to fulfill these mitzvahs in the street is b'diuk k'mo b'bayis, just like you can do it at home. Why can you do it in the street as well? Why not? Novas mikach emerges from the fact that the mitzvahs elu, for these mitzvahs ain klal kesher l'mokan. They're not confined to a specific place, so it makes no difference where you do it. That's most mitzvahs. So either only at home, only in a yachid, or doesn't make a difference. Chanukah is the only exception. But Visa Yotze comes out. What emerges from all this? The mitzvahs ner Chanukah shechova l'kaima dafke b'smol, but dafke b'chutz, only on the left and only on the outside. Nivdeles, it is uniquely different. Meirov hamitzvot kikulam than most of the mitzvahs, the vast majority of the mitzvahs. V'lo rak mitzvahs mezuzah. So here the Rebbe goes in to a discussion between aseh and los aseh. I want to mention something that was not mentioned here. It was mentioned in the debate between Rabbi Manis Friedman and Sheikh Taub, and that is by the burning bush. What did Hashem say to Moshe? Huh? Can't hear you.
Take off your shoes.
Oh, take off your shoe. I think you told me to take off my shoe. Take off my shoe. Okay. Take off your shoes. But what at the very end? What did he say to him? At the very, very end, he said, I know you're asking questions. Why is there such a terrible golus? So Hashem responds, Zeh Shmi L'Olam, V'Zeh Zichri L'Dor V'Dor. This is my name. Then he also mentions Zeh Zichri. This is how I'm mentioned. I have two names. My real name and the name that you can relate to, that you call, which is much lower level of name. Like Yud Kei Vav Kei or Aleph Dalet Nun and Yud. But he says like this. Listen to this. How do you spell Shmi? Shin, Mem, Yud. What's the gematria of Shin, Mem, Yud? Of course. Shin, Mem, Yud is what? Shin is 300, Mem is 40, Yud is 50, Yud is 10. Equals 350, right? Okay. Which Hashem has a four-letter name. Which of the four letters is the holier part of Hashem's name? The first two or the last two? Yud Kei, Vav Kei. Yud Kei obviously is holier than Vav Kei. Yud Kei is a name of its own. What's the gematria of Hashem's first two letters of his holy name? Yud Kei, 15. Yud and then Hey. 350 plus 15 makes 365. What's 365? The amount of negative commandments, the amount of don'ts. Zichri. Zichri is Hashem's lower letter name, not the lower part of his name. What's the gematria of Zichri? Zayin, Chaf, Reish, Yud. Zayin is 7. Chaf is 20, 27. Reish is 200, that's 227. And Yud is 10, 237. 237, now add Vav K. Add the Vav and the Hey of Hashem's name. 237 plus 11 is 248. So the positive commandments are connected to Hashem's lower half of his name, Vav K. And the negative commandments, the 365, are connected to the first two letters of Hashem's name. So what do we see here? That Lo Sasa reaches higher than Aseh. When you don't do something wrong, when you have an urge to do something wrong, and you hold yourself back, you reach to a level where God is beyond description. That's why you can't put it into any kind of action. A Lo Sasa, you can't have an object. It's beyond any kind of doing. You can't do it. You can't harness it. It's too deep. It's something that you can only negate, but you can't relate to. You can't capture it. You connect to where God cannot be captured, and that becomes also revealed to you. So a negative commandment reaches much deeper than a positive commandment. Says the Rebbe, a Hanukkah menorah lighting has the qualities of both negative and positive. Again, what's the other advantage of negative? What's the other advantage? That you actually affect the real klipa. When you negate and you don't do something wrong, you humble the anti-Torah world, the anti-Jewishness. There's things that are wrong in the world, averas, right? You hold yourself back from eating something not kosher. Eating not kosher is anti-Torah. By saying no, you actually have an impact by driving away the forces of evil. You don't transform evil, but you drive them away. I said before, if you throw someone out of class, you get humble. Rejection is horrible. So when klipa gets rejected, it's good. Every time you don't do something wrong, you reject klipa and weaken its forces, weaken its ability to feel proud of and feel arrogant to try to, cause a person to sin again. I was rejected. No one likes rejection. But one thing you're missing, you can't transform it. A positive commandment, you're not relating at all to the negative world. It's just kosher food. Everything's kosher. Everything has to be, limited. There are the rules. And the negative, you're affecting the dark part of the world, but in a negative way. Hanukkah is you have both qualities. You're able to transform the negative. Transform sholois, klipos, hatmeis, lagamri. You illuminate the darkness. Not just drive it away, you illuminate it. It becomes lit. Let's see it inside here. Hevdel zeh. This difference between other mitzvahs, the distinction between Chanukah and all the other mitzvahs, Doma is similar, lahevdel, to the different distinction between mitzvahs lo taseh, between the negative and the positive. As mitzvahs say, positive mitzvahs have rules and limitations. Efshar lekayim rak min hamuta beficha. You can only fulfill the mitzvah with something that is kosher. You can't use for tefillin, for Sefer Torah, it has to be skins of a kosher animal. Bitvorim hamutarim, hamekablim chayusa miklipas noga. Only things that receive their nurture, their life source from the neutral klipa, called klipas noga. Umazot, conversely, on the other hand, mitzvahs lo taseh. How do you fulfill lo taseh? Mitkaimot dafke al yedei I asiya, by not doing tvorim or asurim, by not doing things that are forbidden. And where do the things that are forbidden get their chayis from? Hanovim, their life emerges from sholosh haklipais hatmeis. Why is it that lo saseh can get involved with klipa and aseh can't? Hasiba lakachi, the reason for why lo saseh can reach out further, because the higher the godly level, the more unlimited the godly level is, the less limited its outreach is. A lo saseh reaches Hashem where he's not limited in any feature. Right? And thus that key, that non-descriptive light can reach, has no limit to where it can reach. It can also affect even the negative world. A positive mitzvah has a feature, like a vitamin, every vitamin has so every mitzvah has a different vitamin. Every mitzvah corresponds to Hashem's limbs. Every limb has a different function. It's limited. It's a godly limitation, but it's limited. Right? Just like every vitamin vitalizes your health, different in different ways. Right? Vitamin E is for the skin, vitamin B is for the D is for the bones, vitamin B is for something else, vitamin A for the eyes. Every vitamin has a different filter. Every mitzvah affects different parts of your neshama. And why is that? Because it relates to certain levels of godliness that can be addressed, that can be harnessed, can be channeled. A losas that connects to God where he's beyond all that. When the God is beyond all that, there are no rules. In that world, there are no rules, and therefore Hashem can reach all the way out to the three klipas and drive them away. That's what he says over here. So, what's the reason why a negative commandment is able to affect even shalesh haklipas hatmeis? The bond with a godly light that is reached through a positive performance. Mislabek Bekli is God dressed in a certain vessel. Hashem is wearing clothing. He's not himself. From the very fact that a Maisa can actually channel the light that's dressed within it, move on, that light can't be infinite. That light is from the category of godliness that could be channeled, could be absorbed in the limits and confines of a keli. If you're limited, you can't reach the dark world. There's limitations to how far your outreach is. When you're dealing with infinity, the outreach is also infinite. You can even affect the negative world too. You could even reach the corners of the world that are nurturing from shalish klipos hatmeis. Conversely, or the light, the godly light that is reached, that is affected through a losas who built the mugbo is unlimited, lachalutin, decisively, absolutely, unlimited. There's nothing you can do to access it. Therefore, it's hamshacha, it's elicitation. Drawing this light down cannot be done by what you do, but rather by what you don't do. By holding back from doing wrong. When you push away something you would love to do that's wrong, that's how you reach that light. Nothing you can do to access it. It's what you don't do. Since this light has no limitation in how deep it is, in its depth, if something is unlimited in its depth, it's also unlimited in its outreach. Till even the lowest forms of life. The level of Shama can even have an influence even over there. You're drawing down a light. The only difference is that not only does Hanukkah have the quality, the advantage of a negative commandment, which is to drive away klipa, it can transform klipa. It has a positive, it's the positive and the negative all intertwined. It has a positive effect on the furthest corners of the world in terms of their distance from Kedusha. The darkness today is a double-fold, quadruple-fold. Everything is so topsy-turvy today. It's mamish, unbelievable what's going on in the world right now. I'm not going to go into the details. It should be clear. The world, I've never seen such a dark world. It's gone crazy. It's getting crazier by the day. People are not normal. Common sense doesn't exist anymore. Choshech couple of mechupel mentioned a million times. The Rebbe once said, choshech means when you don't see. Choshech couple means when you don't realize you don't see. When you don't realize it's dark. That's double darkness. What's quadruple darkness? Couple umechupal. When you call darkness light and light darkness. Common sense is crazy, is racist, and mishagas, abnormal, is normal, is right, is decent. It's a crazy world right now. And the Hanukkah lit, the Rebbe, by the way, has been so much opposition in the past of lighting public menorahs, and the Rebbe fought it, and now it's accepted. It has reached the actual, the very negative, even I don't want to mention his name, but a Jew who's very far from Yiddishkeit. His wife is not Jewish, and he's anti-Israel, anti-everything, he doesn't believe in anything. Proud atheist. Yet Chabad got to him and went into his home and had him like the Hanukkah lich. I don't mention his name. Who ran for president of the Democratic Party. He ran for president. He calls himself an atheist, proud atheist. He's quite anti-Israel, self-hating Jew. Yet they got to him. He lit the Hanukkah. He actually has a letter from the Rebbe, and he said, "I don't want to show to anyone." He has a letter from the Rebbe. The Rebbe got to him. The power of Hanukkah is a power of. It has all the qualities of a negative commandment, something you can't beyond reach. And yet we're able to access that level of Hashem's light, which is unlimited, with something we do, with lighting the menorah. So it has both qualities. Of course, at the end of the Sicha, the Rebbe says that, mentioned it last week, that tefillin is also similar to Hanukkah. This is the first Hanukkah after the 6-day war, where the Rebbe was full every Fabrengen, mitzvah tefillin. I remember, and you don't remember because you weren't around then. 6 Day War. And I don't know why they didn't publicize it more. If you want to know whether the Rebbe is a Navi or not, I'll tell you what I witnessed. In 1967, the Rebbe, the week before the 6 Day War started. The Rebbe is here. Okay, the Rebbe is here. And I'm standing right here, maybe 20 feet away from the Rebbe at the Lag Bomer parade a week before the 6 Day War started. And the whole world was predicting doom and gloom. Every single rabbi was preparing for a Holocaust, literally. They were all saying, Nebuah, it's going to be this. No, it'll be 5 million, 2 million. No, what's wrong? Because Al Piderach HaTeva, there was no room for any hope. Then you have the Rebbe coming out at the Lag Bomer parade. Malchus, royalty. You probably saw that. I'm sure you saw that. It's so well known to see. And the Rebbe is coming out and says, "There's going to be miracles, and people should not leave. You'll miss all the miracles." And he tells the children, "It's up to you, and you one more Torah and one more mitzvah you do, you will change, and you will have an effect on your brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael." Everyone was screaming, and you hear the love he has for every single Yid in the world, and you hear his prophetic words. It was so powerful. And even the ones that were not very favorable towards Lubavitch, Rosh Yeshivas, when they heard that there was no WhatsApp, you had to wait till the recording, the tape recorders the cassette tapes were sent to Israel. Someone traveled there, they got heard of. Oh, wow. That became even they were like saying, the Mamash Nevuah. Even the detractors of Chabad, those that were against Chabad, were saying the Mamash Nevuah. They forgot about that now. And it was clear the Rebbe was the only signs of optimism of it's bedtime good. Now, if you're not a Navi, what right do you have to put people in danger? Either you're a Navi or you're irresponsible. The Rebbe was saying people should stay there. I got the message. People should stay there. People should stay there. Now, how can you tell people to stay there when there's a takana? Optimistic? Optimistic. Well, thank you. These are lives of people. There's a lot of stories of people that were trying to convince the Rebbe, I have an only one and only son there. Please, Rebbe, I am a Ben Yochid. The Rebbe said, I have thousands and tens of thousands of one and only children. And I'm telling you, nothing to worry about. The broad shoulders of a Navi, of a leader of a generation. 1967. You only hear about it. I was there. I'm telling you firsthand what we witnessed, Mamish, and not for Israel ruining it. I'm sorry for winning the war. We will give everything back. We had no choice. We had to win. So we apologize for winning. Such a Levi Eshkol, loser. And the Rebbe said then, if we would have continued with our victory, they believed that we would do to them what they wanted to do to us, kill them. And if we were to say, no, we're not going to kill you, just get out of our land, they would have done it happily. They were so humble, so mortified by their victory that they would accept anything. We could have had the end of the Middle East crisis right there and then, but of course, Jews feel Jewish guilt. If a Jew doesn't feel guilty, he blames himself. Why he doesn't feel guilty? The little goes inside. Anyways, and on a good note, Hanukkah has the power to prevail over any kind of limitation, any kind of darkness. You read this book? What are you up to? You're not feeling good today. Okay. I can see you're not feeling well.
I wanted to say, I'm going home now.
I'll be report later. I gotta be healthy. I need healthy. Yeah, fever? Huh?
Right before your class, it started going.
Something going around. Not sure. Report Shlema, complete. Quick, need to learn Spanish more. Yeah, but not when you don't people here. Or Spanish. Hebrew I see. Better than Spanish. But now I don't understand the Hebrew yet.
Yeah. Not that.
Fuck you.
Aww. That's so cute. You're in our class now? Baby.